Social Security and Medicare both face long-term solvency challenges. This year's Social Security Trustee Report forecasts that combined retirement and disability programs will be insolvent in 2035. That's not that far away, which is 1 year later than last year's forecast. To be clear, that does not mean the program will have no money left to pay benefits. Rather, the forecast references the year when the enormous Social Security Trust Fund reserves, currently 2.8 trillion, would be depleted. Still, without action by Congress, the program in 2035 would be bringing in enough cash to pay only 83% of the benefits promised to current and future beneficiaries. In other words, beneficiaries would be facing a disastrous 17% cut in benefits. Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, June 13th, 8:30 a.m. It's a beautiful day outside. I think it's already like 75 degrees in Thief River Falls, which is awesome. Hopefully we can dry out the ground a little bit because I know it's moist up here and everything is damp. Anyways, it's my last full month at this office space, which is across from Styles Bamey in the same building as Sarah Jane Boutique. Again, thank you to Sarah for creating such an awesome space for me. I will be moving out to Scott Fricke's ODC building here next month. With that, as always, weekly Money Not Math conversations, our retirement planning coffee talks are an informal way for me to have conversations and answer questions with people even if they are not my clients for free. You are welcome to join the Facebook Live or stop by my office for free coffee. There's no pressure to work with me or become my client by stopping by in person or online. It is my mission to provide the highest quality advice and service possible to my clients. Therefore, I limit myself to only having 100 or less active clients at all times that I have fiduciary responsibility to. Even though I limit myself to only working with 100 clients at any given time, it is still important to me to provide as much value to as many good people as possible, which is why these conversations are so important to me and answering your questions is so valuable to me. Disclaimer, this content is not legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult a qualified professional regarding your personal situation, and this is live, so I may make a mistake from time to time, but I'll do my best not to. I look forward to some great conversations and hope you have a wonderful day either way, whether you're watching this live or watching or listening to it at a later date. With that, are there any questions to start? Please put them in the comments section now or at any time during this live video. I do have 1 hour set aside on my calendar to answer questions, but if there's not enough questions to take up an hour, I'll probably wrap this up in about 30 minutes. But like I said, I would love to spend this whole hour answering your personal questions and thoughts because that's the most valuable thing we can do. It says live video not started. Are we live or not live? This is confusing. Facebook Live. It says I'm live, so I'm going to hope I'm live. Otherwise, I'm just literally talking to myself. This for an hour. So I'm put that in the comment section. Like I said, I would much rather answer questions for an hour than just pick out topics that I think are valuable, because what I think is valuable may not be valuable to you. So please do not hesitate to comment with questions or thoughts regarding anything retirement planning related. Any questions to start? Seeing none, I will get us started with an article that's titled Avoid RMD Shortfalls with these five top rules on life expectancy. And this is from morningstar.com, and this could be extremely valuable to everyone who is nearing or in retirement. I'll put the full article in the comments section in case anyone wants to read the whole thing themselves. And this is written by Denise Appleby, and it says how to use the right life expectancy table to calculate RMDs for inherited IRAs. Beneficiaries must take required, my mouth's not working this morning, minimum distributions from their inherited IRAs. When the RMD is an annual obligation, the single life expectancy table must be used to identify the denominator for RMD calculation. In some cases, adjustments must be made to determine the life expectancy factor for a year. Beneficiaries must know when adjustments are required and ensure they are applied. Please note these rules also apply to employer plans. When life expectancy rule does not apply, there is no calculation if the IRA owner dies before the required beginning date and the 5-year or 10-year rule applies. Instead, the only requirement is that the inherited IRA be fully distributed by the end of the applicable period, 5 or 10 years. There is no RMD calculation because there's no annual RMD requirement. Therefore, the life expectancy table would not be used in such cases. So this is really important to understand that you used to have pretty much your whole life to spend inherited IRA. Now you have 5 to 10 years. So whether you're the one getting an inherited IRA, that can drastically affect how you use it, or if you're leaving one for an heir, it's important to understand what you're leaving to them. So it might be valuable to reposition those assets so they don't have a spending timeline, or at least explain to them ahead of time what the plan should be or could be with the money that you're leaving behind. With that, for IRAs inherited before 2020 from an IRA owner who died before the RBD, the 5-year rule would apply if the beneficiary were not a designated beneficiary, such as an estate or a charity, or if the beneficiary is a designated beneficiary who is subject to the 5-year rule under the terms of the IRA agreement. For IRAs inherited after 2019 from an IRA owner who died before the RBD, the 5-year rule would apply if the beneficiary were not a designated beneficiary, such as an estate or charity. The 10-year rule will apply if the beneficiary is a designated beneficiary or an eligible designated beneficiary who is subject to the 10-year rule under the terms of the IRA agreement. The RBD is April 1st of the year, which follows the year the IRA owner reaches their applicable RMD age. The applicable RMD ages are as follows. All right, so RBD, they keep saying that. What does that mean, quick? RBD. Required benefit date, I'm assuming. I don't know if they actually ever explained it. They just started saying it. Yes, I believe it's the required benefit date. So here's the date. So if your birth date is June 30th, 1949 or earlier, the year the IRA owner attained age 70 and a half is your applicable RMD age. That's when you have to start taking required minimum distributions. If your birthday is between July 1st, 1949 and December 31st, 1950, the year the IRA owner attained age 72 is when you have to start taking RMDs. January 1st, 1951 to December 31st, 1959 birth date, you have to start taking RMDs at age 73. January 1st, 1959 and after, the year the IRA owner attains age 75. So those are really important dates to understand because sometimes you don't even want the money from your qualified plans, but the government will force you to take them because they obviously want the tax money. At least that's my assumption for the reasoning. But they will not let you just keep deferring taking that money forever. So you do have to start taking the money eventually. Please note there's an overlap with ages 73 and 75 for those born in 1959. The IRS is expected to issue technical corrections for that error. An employer plan can be designed to allow eligible employees to defer RMDs past these ages until retirement. A Roth IRA owner is always treated as if they died before the RBD because there are no RMDs for the Roth owners. All right. So, number one, let's review the top 5 rules for the single life expectancy table. Number 1, the single life expectancy table is used for beneficiary accounts. Where there are 3 life expectancy tables, the single life expectancy table is the one that must be used to calculate RMDs for beneficiary IRAs. Number 2, the life expectancy is recalculated only for certain spouse beneficiaries. If the IRA owner's spouse is the sole primary beneficiary of the IRA, the life expectancy for the surviving spouse is recalculated by visiting the table each year to determine the life expectancy. For example, if the spouse beneficiary is 57 years old this year, her life expectancy would be 29.8. To determine her life expectancy for the next year, the table will be revisited to find her life expectancy factor for age 58. So each year, your RMDs change, is what that's saying. It's saying let's say you start taking RMDs this year and it's $10,000. That doesn't mean your required minimum distribution will be $10,000 next year. It will probably be more because your life expectancy is less. In all other cases, the life expectancy is not recalculated. Instead, one is subtracted for each year after the year of determination of life expectancy factor. For example, if a non-spouse beneficiary's life expectancy in the year of determination is 41.9, the life expectancy for the following year would be 40.9, one less. But see number 4 below for an exception. Number 3, the year of determination depends on whose life expectancy is used. When determining the life expectancy factor for beneficiary account, one must know the year in which the life expectancy factor is first determined. The year of determination is based on whose life expectancy is used. The following is a high-level summary. The IRA owner died before their RBD. The eligible designated beneficiary for IRAs inherited before 2020 who takes distributions over their life expectancy would determine their life expectancy in the year that follows the year in which the IRA owner died, and one would be subtracted for each subsequent year. If number 2 option is if the IRA owner died on or after their RBD, The beneficiary's life expectancy is used if the beneficiary is designated beneficiary or an eligible designated beneficiary younger than the IRA owner. It will be determined in the year that follows the year in which the IRA owner died. If the beneficiary is an eligible designated beneficiary who is older than the IRA owner, or a beneficiary who is not a designated beneficiary or a non-designated beneficiary, the life expectancy of the IRA owner would be used. It would be therefore be determined. That's a lot of mouthful. So basically, just know that your situation could be different than usual, and I think that's so many words that it's just really important to look into your personal situation for your family and for yourself and for whoever you're leaving your money to. If you're the one leaving the money, or if you're the one inheriting it, of course, you want to understand that too to avoid tax penalties. Number 4, the new life expectancy table must be used as of 2022 and adjusted for non-calculating beneficiaries. They got an example here. All right, I think I've covered enough on that. I'm not going to go into great depth. I did include the link if you're curious. Number 5, there are no adjustments when RMDs or the excise tax is waived. So all important things, and you can get dinged big time if you don't take your RMDs properly. You can get taxed a lot. So make sure you're paying attention to what you or your advisor are paying attention to what your RMD rules are. So with that, hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a mouthful and it's kind of marshmallowy as far as the complexity of RMDs and all the words that were just used, but they're extremely important to understand when it comes to your retirement planning, whether that's you're in retirement already or nearing it. So please comment with questions on RMDs or anything else retirement planning related. All right, seeing no questions or thoughts, I'm going to read an article from Morningstar.com titled, "Why Are Stocks Hitting Record Highs and What Could Send Them Back to Earth?" Obviously, we all enjoy when the stock market is up. It makes our lives a lot simpler and less stressful, even though the news will try to terrify you every day. So I'm curious to see this was written on May 21st from Sarah Hansen. She says, "Optimism about the economy, inflation, and the Fed are lifting stocks, but risks remain. It's a great time to be a stock investor. The Morningstar U.S. Market Index is up 11.4% for the year and nearly 29% over the last 12 months. Okay, again, this is back in May. I think it might even be up since then. Except for a pullback in April, the index has steadily reached one new high after another since January. The S&P 500 index and the Dow Jones Industrial Average have also notched records, with the Dow passing the 40,000 point milestone last week. Let's see what they're at today. S&P 500 over the last month. So yes, in the last month it's up another 4%. The S&P 500 is up to 5,435, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average the last month is down 2.25% and valued at 38,543. So the S&P 500 is up since this article was written, and the Dow Jones is down since the article was written. But overall in the year, they're both still up. Analysts say a strong economy, moderating inflation, robust corporate profits, and trust in the Federal Reserve are buoying investor confidence and helping stock rise. However, they warn that trouble could be around the corner if any of those factors fall out of balance. The U.S. continues to grow. According to Michael Arone, Chief Investment Strategist at State Street Global Advisors, the biggest tailwind for stocks has been an unexpectedly healthy economy. A year ago, market watchers were sounding the alarm about potential recession. Today, even with the interest rates at their most restrictive level in decades, it's full steam ahead. And yet, I bet almost every single day, or at least at minimum every single week, so-called analysts are predicting a crash, because they always do, because that's what sells ads. With that, Chris Zaccarelli, Chief Investment Officer for Independent Advisor Alliance, attributes the surprising strength to consumer spending and a robust labor market. Those two factors together are really what's contributed to the economy staying out of recession, he says, which is ironic because I think credit card debt is skyrocketing as well. So companies are doing great and stocks are doing great because humans are spending a ton of money, even though maybe they shouldn't be spending so much money. So it's kind of an interesting factor when it comes to the economy or the economics of our economy. So if you look at, they have a graph here for GDP growth in case you want to check that out in the link. Arone points out that despite a recent slowdown in GDP growth over the past few quarters, estimates for growth in the upcoming quarter are hovering around 3.6%, We won't get that number, but it's still a healthy economic environment. UBS Global Wealth Management analysts also aren't worried about the modest slowdown in economic activity. In a research note published Tuesday, Salita Marcelli, Chief Investment Officer, Americas at UBS, wrote that growth is still relatively strong and is unlikely to deteriorate rapidly. This is good news for risk assets, as a comfortable soft landing for the U.S. economy should allow the Fed to start cutting interest rates later this year, and at the same time support healthy corporate profits. Inflation is finally trending down again. That's good news for all of us when it comes to trying to buy groceries and things like that, right? Much of the market's gyration in the first quarter of the year, not to mention a major pullback in April, happened thanks to an unexpectedly hot inflation prints in January, February, and March. Stocks fell as investors adjusted to the idea that the Fed might not ease policy as much or as drastically as expected in 2024. So CPI versus core CPI. Core CPI was 3.6%. Headline CPI was 3.4%, and the 10-year average headline CPI was 1.9%. That's CPI's Consumer Price Index. But now, an encouraging April inflation reading means markets are breathing a sigh of relief. The fact that inflation went back to the declining trajectory certainly encouraged investor, Arun says. So, and if you have questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments section. Otherwise, I'll keep reading this article. So, earnings are coming in strong. As of Monday, 90% of the roughly 1,300 companies in the Morningstar U.S. Market Index had reported earnings, with just under three-quarters of those surprising to the upside. Overall, earnings for the index are up 4.4% so far. Companies continue to earn record profits, says Zaccarelli. Those profits are a major component of stock performance, and market watchers expect more growth. Analysts are increasing their earnings expectations, which is somewhat unusual, Arun says. They usually lower them so companies can easily step over the bar. Earnings season also helped ease investors' minds about the worryingly concentrated market, wherein stock price and earnings growth were confined to just a few mega-cap technology names like Alphabet, which is Google, Microsoft. Now UBS analysts see an encouraging trend of broadening profit growth, which, if it continues, should support equity performance in the coming months. Investor confidence in the Fed. These days, investors seem to see the Fed as a friend, not a foe. There's an expectation that, should the economy falter, the Fed stands ready and able to lower rates, Arun says. The target range for the federal funds rate is about 5.25 to 5.5%. That's good news from where we're at right now. Investors may not all agree about whether that's sufficiently restrictive to control the inflation, but there's no doubt that the central bank has room to ease policy should a major shock to the economy, particularly the jobs market, warrant it. Arun says investors should not worry so much about when the Fed will finally deliver the first cut of the easing cycle or how many cuts the cycle will eventually entail. He says the more important question is the Fed ready and willing to cut rates should the economy falter? I think the answer is emphatically yes. That puts in a layer of support for markets. They ask the question, what could derail the market's bull run? Of course, the same factors driving markets high could send stocks falling. For Arun, a major risk is the central bank keeping policy at restrictive levels for too long. I wonder what too long is. They've been saying that for like 2 years now. Like, if they keep the rates up too long, we're going to see a crash. If they keep the rates up too long, we're going to see a crash. Well, at what point is too long? I'd be curious. Maybe it's an unknown timeline, but they sure like to say it a lot. They're waiting for greater confidence in that inflation is trending toward 2%, he explains. What happens if they wait too long? Ultimately, I think that could cause a recession or the Fed could break something in the capital markets. Zaccarelli points to elevated valuations as another risk. Until now, strong earnings from the biggest players in the market have meant that investors are willing to stomach higher prices, but that won't last if the Alphabets and Microsofts of the world start missing their targets. You're effectively priced for perfection, and anything short of that perfection can cause a sell-off, Zaccarelli says. So, essentially what they're saying is it's probably good news that they expect rates to come down, which is probably good news for the market. However, if rates don't come down and they stay high for too long, it could cause a market sell-off. However, keep in mind that we might be right where we need to be, because historically speaking, we're right around the average for mortgage rates and interest rates. We're just a lot higher than we were 4 years ago. But over the last 30, 40 years, we're pretty much on average. So it could be, we might be right where we need to be. I wouldn't make any drastic changes in your plan based on expecting the rates to drop, because they told us they were going to drop a long time ago and they still haven't. Any questions or comments or thoughts? on anything retirement planning related or otherwise? All right, so seeing none, I will read another article here from Morningstar.com. I get a lot of these emailed to me, so hopefully you like Morningstar. If not, I apologize. Ask more questions. With that, this one is titled, Is Fixing Social Security and Medicare as Dire as It Seems? This affects pretty much everyone, right? I think virtually everyone in our society is going to have one, if not both of those, impact their retirement, Social Security, and or Medicare. 50 years after the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, high levels of retirement risk point to the need for solutions. There must be 50 ways to fix Social Security. Okay, that's not a direct quote from Paul Simon lyric, but I find myself humming the tune every year when Social Security trustees issue their annual report on the program's health. And I don't know if I said it or not. This is written by Mark Miller back on May 23rd, 2024. Like clockwork, you can expect to see misleading headlines warning that Social Security is going broke or running out of money, and you'll see similar headlines about the report of the Medicare trustees. This year, let's consider the inaccurate news coverage in the context of an important milestone, the 50th anniversary of the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA. This landmark federal legislation was signed into law in 1974. ERISA established badly needed fiduciary standards and regulations for private pension plans in the wake of a series of defined benefit plan failures and abuses. But the law's tougher standards did ultimately play a key role in the shift by employers to defined contribution plans. So what that means is that in the past, 30 years ago or so, defined benefit plans were the most common retirement plan there was, which says it's like a pension that some people still have today, where you put your savings in and they give you a guaranteed benefit out. Defined benefit plan. Now they've shifted the risk away from the company onto the employee by having defined contribution plans. So you define how much you put in, but there's no guarantee of what you get out of it. How much it grows, how you invest it, how you use it, that's completely up in the air. So the company, once they put money in and once they host this 401k, 403b, or whatever it's called, the risk is completely off of them because they've shifted it onto you by switching from benefit plans to contribution plans. Not a bad thing. It's just really important to understand kind of why they did it. They were struggling and there was a lot of plan failures and abuses back when they were guaranteeing these long guaranteed benefit retirements. Back to the article. This shift from the guaranteed lifetime income provided by pensions to tax-deferred 401k plans has been described as the great risk shift, like we just talked about, and has played a big role in leaving so many retirees at risk of falling standard of living in retirement. The 401k system has performed well for higher income workers, especially those employed by large companies with strong, low-cost plans, but it leaves roughly half of workers with no retirement savings plan option. Many who work at small companies are in mediocre to bad plans with high costs that take an enormous bite out of savings. And this is really important because it wasn't that long ago where I had this just assumption that all 401k plans had lower fees than our advisory plans, and it's actually come to my attention that a lot of smaller plans don't. And in fact, a lot of decent bigger plans don't either, especially if your money isn't invested in a high cost portfolio. So it's really important to understand the costs and fees and things like that and what you're actually getting from your group plan and how you're investing your money. I've seen quite a few people investing their money in just target date funds or bond funds and really have no idea the pros and cons and the long-term growth potential by properly allocating their money. This year's ERISA anniversary will spark plenty of conversations about ways to improve and expand access to defined contribution benefits, and those conversations are worthwhile. But I hope the anniversary and the fall elections will also infuse new energy into efforts to improve and expand Social Security and Medicare. So, grow the government a little bit. But I'm more in favor of private investing and things like that, but that's for another day. A snapshot of Social Security and Medicare finances. Social Security and Medicare both face long-term solvency challenges. This year's Social Security trustee report forecasts that combined retirement and disability programs will be insolvent in 2035. That's not that far away, which is 1 year later than last year's forecast. To be clear, that does not mean the program will have no money left to pay benefits. Rather, the forecast references the year when the enormous Social Security trust fund reserves, currently $2.8 trillion, would be depleted. Still, without action by Congress, the program in 2035 would be bringing in enough cash to pay only 83% of the benefits promised to current and future beneficiaries. In other words, beneficiaries would be facing a disastrous 17% cut in benefits. Because Medicare is funded through a variety of sources, its situation is less dire. This year, the trustees project the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund, which finances Medicare Part A, will be exhausted in 2035, 5 years later than in last year's report. The other parts of Medicare cannot run out of funds because general and government revenue and premiums are adjusted annually to meet projected costs. If the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund did become insolvent, it would be sufficient funding from the current revenue to meet 89% of benefits. How to fix Social Security's finances. Polling consistently shows that most Americans prefer raising new revenue to support both Social Security and Medicare. And I'd agree, says the writer. Democrats typically advocate for raising taxes on the wealthy to extend Social Security's solvency, while Republican lawmakers want to fix the problem by cutting benefits. President Joe Biden's latest budget plan calls for higher income people to pay more. Congressional Democrats have called for an increase to the cap on the amount of wages subject to payroll tax, and some plans also call for new taxes on investment income. These various proposals would restore solvency anywhere from 32 to 75 years. These plans also modestly expand benefits, particularly for the most vulnerable retirees. The Social Security Expansion Act would raise benefits across the board by roughly $200 per month and implement a more generous annual cost of living adjustment. It would also add targeted increases for low-income workers. The Social Security 2100 Act would raise benefits modestly across the board and boost the COLA, which is cost of living adjustment rider. Maybe not a rider, but cost of living adjustment. Each year you have Social Security. Your Social Security year 1 is not the same as Social Security year 10 because they'll take a cost of living adjustment each year and step it up a little bit, assuming they can keep funding it. All right. Meanwhile, it also would reduce the share of retirees whose benefits are subject to income taxes and boost benefits for widows, which is huge because currently, if you make over $44,000 taxable income in retirement, your Social Security can be double taxed up to 85%. And I say double tax because you pay taxes before you contribute. So for them to tax you on the outflow too, that's literally they're taxing you twice on the same dollar. And I don't think most of us would think $44,000 of taxable income is a lot of taxable income. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, the likely Republican presidential nominee, usually says he would not touch Social Security, but leaving the program untouched is not a policy solution since it results in a 17% cut in benefits. Republican solutions center on cutting benefits. They have proposed phasing in higher retirement ages, that is, the age at which you receive 100% of your earned benefit. They also have called for means testing benefits, which would cut back on payments to higher income households. The argument for a higher retirement age often contends that we're all living longer, so it makes sense to push back the eligibility age, but longevity gains have been concentrated mainly in better educated, higher income people, and this argument makes the underlying problems that come with pushing the full retirement age higher. First, it would function as a benefit cut because it raises the bar on how long people must wait to receive their full earned benefit. The higher retirement age legislated in 1983 was effectively a benefit cut of 13% because it increased the full retirement age to 67 for workers born in 1960 or later. Raising the full retirement age to 70 would be an additional cut of roughly 20%. It assumes that people would simply work longer to meet their living costs, but the people who rely most on Social Security are less educated workers who often work in physical labor, and the pandemic seems to have ushered in a change in expectations around working longer. A new survey by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York finds that the share of American workers who say they expect to continue working full-time at older ages is falling sharply, especially among women and lower-income workers. The political parties are far apart on how to right the ship. Many Republicans are focusing only on benefit reductions, and Democrats are focusing solely on tax increases, says Paul N. Van De Water, senior fellow at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Most analysts think it's going to take some combination of both to solve the problem, but so long as both sides take these positions, it's much more difficult to reach a compromise solution. Shocking, just like everything else. They're so polarized either direction, we don't get any progress in the middle. Gotta love it. Anyways, sorry, I digress. Going back to the article, if that persists, the writer suspects Congress will turn to a different solution to avert insolvency and benefit cuts, Emergency injection of general government revenue. Perfect. They're going to print more money and put it in there. Talk about driving up inflation, which decreases the value of the dollar, which decreases the value of any increased Social Security benefits. But anyways, the logic backing the general revenue solution is straightforward. Even if a consensus emerged for some amount of benefit reduction close to the insolvency date, the math simply does not work owing to the magnitude and timing of the cuts required. How to fix Medicare's finances. The Biden administration's most recent budget proposal calls for a revenue fix for the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund focused on high-income households and business income. It also would credit to the fund savings from Medicare's new power to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies and broaden that negotiating power. So, as you can see, pretty much every fix for Democrats in the Biden administration is just more taxes. If they tax us more, they can fix everything. It's essentially the problem, or their solution to all problems is just more and more money, more and more control, more and more power. The flip side, the Republican side for Social Security just wants to cut benefits. Up to you if you think that's right or wrong. Let's see what they want to do about Medicare. The Republican Study Committee, which represents a majority of the party's lawmakers, is looking to privatization to solve Medicare's financial problems. Its budget plan this year calls for the introduction of the premium support, or vouchers, an idea that has been proposed at various times for more than a decade. So that's kind of interesting. That rather than giving, the Democrats want you to pay more in taxes so they can fix their problems. The Republicans want to take it out of the government's hands and privatize it and go to the private sector to fix the problems. All the parts of the Medicare would be combined into a single program that would be offered by private insurance companies with a mix of government support and out-of-pocket payments. Seniors would use the vouchers to shop for healthcare plans. Last year, the RSC plan called for higher eligibility ages by mirroring Social Security's full retirement age. The argument that privatization saves money flies in the face of recent evidence on what's already going on in Medicare. Medicare Advantage, which offers Medicare coverage through private health insurance companies, already costs taxpayers and premium paying enrollees much more than traditional fee-for-service Medicare. The Medicare Payment Advisory Commission, which advises Congress on policy, recently reported that Medicare this year will pay Medicare Advantage plans on an estimated 122% of the cost similar beneficiaries in traditional Medicare. That translates into $83 billion in additional Medicare spending in 2024 and $13 billion in higher Medicare Part D premiums paid by Medicare beneficiaries in 2024. So what do you think? What's the solution to Social Security Medicare? Do we increase taxes? Do we cut benefits? Do we privatize? What's the solution to fixing the government's problems with their programs? Any thoughts? Seeing none. Be really curious to hear what you guys think. Coming back to the article, when will Congress act on Social Security and Medicare funding? Without reading further, I guess at the last hour, because it's a political bombshell and no one wants to really touch it that much. So why fix something if it's going to ruin your campaign? When will Congress act on Social Security and Medicare funding? Since this is an election year, don't expect to see Congress addressing Social Security and Medicare shortfalls in 2024. He agrees. Optimists think action on Social Security could come in 2025. Among them is Martin O'Malley, the recently confirmed commissioner on Social Security. A 17% cut in benefits would be a huge hit to people who are living from one benefit check to the next, he told me in a recent interview. This program has done so much to lift so many seniors out of poverty. I can't imagine that the Congress won't act to make sure that it's strengthened into a foreseeable future. The more pessimistic view, Social Security will get close to the solvency cliff, followed by a general revenue bailout. All right, so again, I think all three of these articles, I don't think I put that in the comments. I'll put that in the comments too. I think all three of these articles, though very in-depth and maybe a little more details than most people are interested in listening to, are extremely important. So hopefully they prompt you to either, one, read the articles that I'm including in the comments, and I'll include in my later posts, two, talk to your financial advisor about either, one, RMDs, required minimum distributions, two, the stock market, your investment plan, what's your strategy for both putting money in and getting it out in retirement. Sometimes the getting it out can actually be the more valuable part of that planning. Or three, your Social Security plan and how you plan to plan around your Social Security and Medicare costs in the future. With that, if there are questions, thoughts, or comments, I'd be happy to stay on until 9:30. Otherwise, it is 9:04, so if I don't see any in the next minute or so, I will be logging off for the day. And again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who takes the time to watch these videos, watch or listen to these videos live or at a later date. And also, especially thank you to those who are willing to share, comment, and like these videos and podcasts to help me reach a greater audience. Because, like I said, even though it's my mission to provide the best value and advice possible to my 100 clients, it's also always been my goal to provide as much value to as many good people as possible. So I really do appreciate those who are willing to take the time to share, comment, and like these posts or podcasts to the people they know. It's really helpful to me to help more people, and it means a lot to me. So thank you everyone for your time. I don't see any comments or questions in the comment section. So with that, I'll just say have a great day. I appreciate your time and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.